Hi, friends. Thank you so much for joining us today. I have no idea if this live stream is going to work or not. We are having some technical difficulties with our streaming. It looks very pixelated and slow, so we're going to try to get on Facebook here and see if we can also see it there. Otherwise, we might just have to exit and come back another day. We've tried hotspotting and we've tried other Wi-Fi. It seems like it's not the internet. It's actually something in the program. So with that, can you turn on your volume and just see if it sounds okay and it's playing okay?
Well, it'll
Okay.
feedback. Like it just.
Why don't you just pop out for a minute?
All right, I'll be right back.
And while he's doing that, I will share some information. So we have been doing a series on 4 keys to great relationships. These are tricks and tools that we learned early in our marriage as we adjusted to becoming one, that we found were really keys that helped just shape our marriage, save our marriage, and help us have a really great marriage. But they're not only marriage tips, these are also really great for kids and for other relationships also. So last week we talked about the law of pursuit, what that is and how to do it, and why it helps to give you a safe and healthy marriage. And then this week, we are going to be talking about, I forgot to tell you where you can find the replays of those. You can find that on our website at www.thehomemadefamily.com. You can find it on YouTube. Search The Homemade Family, Nathaniel and Amy White, or you can catch that anywhere you can find podcasts. Go to search for Insight Now and look for The Homemade Family. Speaking of Insight Now, you can also catch that on the internet at insightnow.co or on Facebook at Insight Now. And just Tuesday night we did the 100th episode with the founders of that, who are Chris Bassett, Peter DeWitt, and Prophet Mark Crawford out of Tasmania, Australia. We also were on with Malvina. She's an amazing prophet lady. We just had so much fun. So if you want to hear that, I highly recommend that you go and have a listen over there at insightnow.co or anywhere podcasts are found, just Insight Now. Today, we are talking about key number 3 in our keys, and we are going to talk about love languages. I know love languages is kind of been around for a while, and maybe some of you have heard of those before, but we're going to give you some really great stories and some practical tips, and we'll just do a quick review of what indeed the love languages are. So, Nathaniel, why don't you get us started off?
All right. So before we dive into the love languages, first of all, yes, the love languages, it comes from a book that Gary Chapman wrote, and now it has developed into a very full-fledged and mature marriage and relationships ministry. If you want more resources, more information, even a little quiz assessment kind of thing that you can take to kind of help identify or get some help identifying what might be your strongest or dominant love language, you can go to www.5lovelanguages.com, and the 5 is the digit, not the word. So again, 5lovelanguages.com for more information.
I was going to start us off with a story to illustrate. Okay, I forgot. I was going to start with a story. So when Nathaniel and I first got married, we were coming up against this kind of regular conflict. And it was kind of funny because at that time, he was staying home with the kids and I was going to work. And when I came home from work in the evening, he would want to pull up a chair and sit down and talk. And I would want to come in, kind of clean up the kitchen and start making dinner. And he was beginning to feel like I had no value for him and I didn't love him because I never came and sat down and had a conversation. At the same time, I was thinking, what is wrong with this guy? Doesn't he love me? If he loved me, he would see these things need to be done and he would stop asking me to sit down, but instead he would join me in the work that needs to be done. And so this was kind of a conflict in the beginning of our marriage. And what we didn't realize was for him, he really was longing for quality time and connection. And I was looking for him to love me with acts of service. And we didn't understand each other. And so that is our intro story, that how this ended up helping to save our marriage.
Yep. So a few introductory notes, as I was saying. You can find more resources. I covered that one. But just to kind of start this off, at some level, all of us have all 5 love languages. And there could be more. This is not like this is scripture and God said these are the only 5 love languages and you have one and everyone else is different and whatever. So this isn't to hyper label anybody. This is just a helpful resource, and that's how it's intended to be used. If that's not how it's used, it can be become unhealthy if it's overused. Like we can become orphan-minded about these love languages if we take it too far. For example, one of our sons is extremely strong in the gifts love language, and I mean, he couldn't keep money in his money jar. Like as soon as he had $10, it was gone. And trying to convince him that he did not need that next plushie on his wish list, 2 weeks after he just got a new one or 3 new ones for a birthday or something like that. It was like, yes, gifts is massively his love language, but gifts is not meant, just because gifts is your love language doesn't mean that should go on to like this driving need that then turns into manipulation or control or victim mindedness or orphan mindedness or any of those kinds of things. So anyway, just a little caveat to say like, hey, these can be unhealthy, but when used rightly, we think they're very helpful. And they are helpful for us to know these things because so it's just our natural tendency as people, as humans, is that we will love others the way that we want to be loved. And that isn't always the way that our significant others or our families or our spouses actually hear, I love you. So just like Amy was saying in the introductory story, I wanted Amy to love me by coming and hearing about my day, letting me hear about her day, having a conversation with me. And she wanted me to love her by doing work in the kitchen and getting dinner ready and these jobs that needed done. And so we needed a little bit of help to learn how to speak each other's languages.
So we did resolve that problem by, once we understood the love languages, it was okay for him to sit at the counter and talk and listen to me talk while I worked. He didn't feel offended by me working while we talked anymore, and I didn't feel offended by him sitting there while I worked anymore. We just came to the agreement that we understood that this was why we were feeling the disconnect, and now we could connect more fully. Yes. So the first one that we're going to talk about is the love language of gifts. Now, if your love language is gifts, these are some indicators. What? Did I miss one?
No.
Okay.
It's just marking.
that these are some indicators. Like you feel loved when somebody gives you a gift and that they have put some thought into that gift because they know who you are and they know what you like. That's kind of the thing about a gifts person, is it's not just giving them a gift card or something like that, but it's actually something that you've thought about, the way that they are, things that are meaningful to them, and then you buy them gifts. Also, they tend to show love by buying gifts. I remember a story of a friend of mine, a sweet couple, their kids are all grown and they have grandkids now. But the wife was telling the story when she had her first baby, her husband took one look at the baby, ran out to the store and buy this beautiful, gorgeous necklace and brought it back. It was like he was so overcome with love for this child that he immediately needed to go buy this expensive necklace to show his love for the baby. And some of us might think that's really weird that he would run off and do that. But for him, that was the overflow and the expression. My mom is gifts, is her love language.
Boy, is she.
Oh my. And so Christmas is like the tree.
You can barely see the tree.
You can't see the tree because it's covered with gifts. And she spends all year buying and planning gifts for what people want and what they need. This is one of the ways that she shows love, is by always giving gifts, which is wonderful and beautiful. But at the same time, I also know it's her love language. So I struggle sometimes, like, okay, because I'm really practical. So I'm like, what does she need? Not like what would be meaningful to show her that I know her heart and care about her in that way. But so gifts is that you love to give and receive gifts, and they have to have meaning.
Yeah. So, for us, this is our Ezra, our youngest. He is very, very, very strong in the gift love language. And in fact, it used to be, he was young enough that he wouldn't ever think ahead. And he didn't have money to buy gifts anyway, but he didn't think ahead to create something ahead of time. And so it would be like the day of someone's birthday, and he sees, oh, in 20 seconds, we're going to do opening presents. And he'd run off to his bedroom and find any random thing he could get in his bedroom. And he'd wrap it up somehow, package it somehow, and he'd give you some gift. And it was probably a solid 2 years. He did this for every single birthday, for Christmas, when people from church came over to our house for lunch. He would give them gifts. One amazing lady took a little rock or shell or something that he gave her and actually incorporated it into a necklace that she made. And it was wonderful just to see how she loved Ezra back and made his gift significant. But yes, that's gifts.
Yeah. And one more note on that. He would literally give away,
oh man,
it was like weird stuff, even, like pieces of bubble gum or rocks or shells or toys, and he would give like even things that were really valuable and meaningful to him. And he started just wanting to like give away everything. And we had to rein him in a little bit, help him understand that was his love language, and how could he express love without doing that. But on the flip side, we as parents and his siblings and anyone else who received his gifts really needed to be careful to just be like, wow, thank you so much for your generosity, instead of like, what am I going to do with this broken shell? Or this, half melted wax crayon, or just whatever he could come up with. So from that, I decided to get a little box and just keep some dollar store gifts in it. And then the night before people's birthday, I do allow him to like go through the box to choose something to give to somebody so that he could, give a good gift.
Yeah. So okay. It's good. Help me remember to circle back around when we've covered some other ones.
Okay.
Because what can happen is if you're really strong in one, but you don't balance out some of the other ones, then it can leave a place where your loved ones are feeling empty in some areas, then even though you are really strong in this other one. So anyway, next one on the list is quality time. And we have on our notes that we think that this is honestly most kids. Most kids seem to have this as a really strong, especially younger, when they don't have perspective about time as much. But I think where we notice this most in our family is really 3 of our kids currently. 2 of them, what it looks like is, we do our bedtime routine. We do a little bit of devotionals in the hallway. We have hugs. And then we send everybody to their beds, and then we'll go around to each child in their bed, and they get just a little bit of one-on-one time as we're tucking them in. Well, for 2 of them, they want like half an hour of one-on-one time. Now that it's already time to go to sleep and go to bed, they want an extensive amount of time. But the thing about it is, this is probably the only time during the day that they really get undivided attention. There's so many other things going on during the day where even if you're trying to have a private conversation, it doesn't stay private for long. Somebody will come in and interrupt it, whatever, something else is going on. And so unless you really intentionally schedule this one-on-one undivided attention time, then they just don't get it any other time. So I try to leave balance. We try to leave balance. So it's like, okay, well, maybe one of them gets a long tuck in tonight, but not both of them. And we try to just just try to make sure their tanks are filled. And you can do this with dates. You can schedule dates and go out one-on-one with your kids. Another one of our kids the way that this looks in his life right now is he'll almost every night, it seems, he'll ask me, when can I'll be giving him a hug in his bed, and he's like, I'm not letting you go. I want you to sleep in my bed. I want you to sleep in my bed. And I'm like, and when can we have a sleepover? I'm like, well, I don't know, like probably not very soon. We just had one when Amy was in Florida. So it's those different kids look for different kinds of quality time, but that's the heart of it, is quality time. And sometimes, I don't know, I'm totally monopolizing this one. I'm sorry, but one last little thing. Amy and I have been running so many different directions, even though we both work at home, like the actual quality time. Most of the quality time we have is business meetings, and we're connecting on just the business of the household. And so, I mean, my birthday's here in about a month, and I've said, I might just want a date for my birthday. Just, we'll figure it out, but I want a date for my birthday. And I know, we just lost my feed on my phone.
So just two real quick things on this. First of all, that if you remember the very first story I told, that was a quality time thing. And so even though, and Nathaniel did kind of cover this, even though we spend all day together because we work from home, we homeschool together, we work together, we do all these things, that's not quality time to him. To him, that's doing work.
That is
and
doing
so
work.
For our kids, even though we homeschool together, even though we go grocery shopping together, even though we do these things together, and it seems like this would be quality time, I sometimes ask my kids, do you feel connected, and what would help you feel connected? Because for some of them, they feel really connected when we watch a movie together, even though I don't feel connected from that as quality time, because we're watching a movie and not talking to each other. And so quality time can actually manifest in different ways. Is it talking? Is it playing a game together? Is it just, sitting? Maybe it is something like shopping or going on an adventure together. So quality time can actually be kind of different for your kids. And then the whole thing about going on a date, Nathaniel and I. So oftentimes, especially when we had little kids, as soon as we would have a babysitter, I'd be like, let's go grocery shopping, and because it was like the childless moment. And even now when we're on dates, I sometimes will be like, you see,
95% of the time. It's not sometimes.
We've got to go grocery shopping.
My birthday date, I will not permit other stuff on that. Like, we're going to do a date, right? And that's all we're going to do.
Because for me, this is quality time and connecting. We are doing an act of service or a service project by getting the groceries for the family, and we're doing it together. So for me, that feels like quality time, but it doesn't for him. So he wants to just go on a date and not add the grocery shopping in. And sometimes I just have to let that happen.
I want it to be 100% relational. I don't want it to be task.
Yep.
So there you go. This is us doing this live, just talking this out. This is Love Languages live, right? So that leads us right into acts of service, because Amy was already talking about acts of service. So this is your dominant one, so I'm going to let Amy talk about this one.
Okay. Acts of service is that you love people by doing things for them that need to be done. For me, that's things like I cooked your meals, I washed your laundry, I educate you and homeschool you. We work together and have meetings. These are tasks, but they're tasks that create relationship while we do them. Hey, for those of you watching us, could you drop me a quick comment? Like, are we really pixelated and slow, or is the stream coming through normal for you guys? That would be helpful to know if we need to re-record this or not. Thank you. Now back to acts of service. Acts of service also, it feels loving to me when people see a task that needs to happen and then they do that with me or for me. Because a lot of times I feel like I can't get to quality time or something in a deeper relational. Josh Edwards and Cheryl Hawks, could you guys let me know, are we coming through clear, or is it really pixelated and slow? Thank you. So it feels like I can't get to the quality time when I see so many things that still need to be done. And so for me, it really feels loving that somebody would join me in the work. I feel seen when people help me in the tasks. And on the same respect, then, if my kids and family are watching TV or reading a book or playing games while I'm cooking and cleaning and doing the things that need to happen, that sometimes can make me feel unloved and unseen. And then I begin to react out of that. So, acts of service is that you do the things that need to be done. And that's one of the things that's loving. I know I have this wonderful couple friend of mine, and that husband will always fill her gas tank for her. It's never empty. Okay, Cheryl's giving me a thumbs up that it's okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl.
That acts of service is very meaningful to my wife.
Right? Very meaningful. So, like, that's an act of service that for her, I mean, that's one of the ways he shows love is by filling her gas tank. And that is his way of expressing that love to her.
Right. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next one.
I think that's. I think just we might cover this a little bit later, but Amy will sometimes make a point of drawing attention, saying, "Hey, I do these things for you. Please see them as my love for you, not just getting a chore done." Because for somebody who is highly relational like me, like she was saying in the quality time thing, some of Amy's favorite dates are to sit down with a glass of wine and a calendar. And we talk about the things that we have coming up on our calendar and the things that we need to schedule. And she feels so deeply connected from that. And I feel like groans and emptiness. It drains me, but it fills her. And so to a highly relational person, doing tasks just feels like doing tasks. But to a high task person, doing tasks feels connecting. So this is just necessary information to help you understand the people who are wired differently from you who are in your life so that you can actually connect with each other.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Like that is something that I do with my kids often so that they don't just see me as the taskmaster. I will say, hey, do you know what? I love you so much that today I did your laundry and I loaded the dishwasher, and this is me loving you, and I will actually point that out to my relational kids. Also, making some of the tasks more relational, like sorting laundry. We do that all together as a family, but we put on music, we make it fun. Sometimes we do trivia stuff. Like we try to do the things with something that makes it another level or element of connection in it. So it's not just a task.
Right. Yep. Okay. Acts of service. So the next one, we have talked about gifts. We've talked about quality time. We have talked about acts of service. And so the next one up is words of affirmation. This is my dominant one. This is in a nutshell. I want you to tell me how awesome I am and how wonderful I did. Every single Sunday on our way home from church, I will ask Amy, how was church today? How was the worship time? How was my message? If she was present in the service, if she wasn't with the kids. And I will ask her that. And every single week she says, it was good. And every single week I will say, what does good mean? Because I'm looking for actual concrete information. And I'm not looking for flattery. I am genuinely looking for feedback, but yes, there's certain times and certain things like what makes me feel seen, what makes me feel known, what makes me feel loved and valued is words telling me that I'm seen, heard, loved, valued, those kinds of things. And so you can see how some of this gets really tangled in with some of the other ones because, like, well, how are you going to know me if you haven't spent some quality time? And if we're going to spend some quality time, we're probably going to have some conversation, different things like that. But I just want to give a few tips about words of affirmation that can help set you up for success in this. One is even the look on your face or the tone of your voice can matter a lot to someone who's strong in the words of affirmation love language. So Amy has one of those faces that just her thinking face and her angry face and her sleepy face and her I'm in pain face, they all look the same. And so I frequently think that she's upset or crabby or angry about something, even though it probably is none of those things, but it still is something that I've had to learn to not feel threatened by, to know that I don't need to walk on eggshells, like to know she's not just crabby and irritated all the time. It's just her resting face, you know. So even the look or the look on your face or your tone of voice, if you are confronting a child about something and they are a words of affirmation person, you may in particular want to make sure that you lift up your eyes, like your eyebrows, because it lifts your whole countenance, and you make sure that you're smiling. And so I can confront you about something, but I'm going to say it nicely, and I'm going to say it in a friendly way. I'm going to say it with a friendly expression on my face, because I could say great words but look angry and completely break their heart. So the look on your face, your tone of voice, using descriptive language. How was it? Good. But what was good about it? I love you. Great. What do you love about me?
Yeah, just for those of you who aren't words of affirmation people, or who don't, I mean, I just don't talk as much as Nathaniel does, you know? And so for an internal processor, these are things that I've had to learn to think through, to on purpose speak daily, or where I might just be thinking of something in my head and nothing actually comes out my mouth. I have to really intentionally think about, you know, like, how can I say that I love him, or what things do I love about him or my other kids, or, you know, what things does that child do really well? And especially the words of affirmation people, making sure that I'm affirming them and encouraging them every single day, because it doesn't come naturally to me.
Yeah. Or at least aiming at it, you know. So one last little thing on words of affirmation, and this is a great tip for confronting anybody on anything, but to give them a compliment sandwich. And so a compliment sandwich is like, okay, here's the thing that I'm going to confront you on, but before I tell you this, I'm going to tell you something amazing about you, then I'm going to confront you, then I'm going to tell you something amazing about you. So encouragement, confrontation, encouragement. And when you sandwich it like that, you'll find that your audience will be a lot more receptive to the correction that you're bringing to them. So, yep. And by the way, in all of these things, you don't have to be perfect. Amy still does tasks around me in circles, but you know what? I do my best. I have gotten better over the years, and she sees my progress. She sees my attempts. She sees my heart in it, all of those things. And because she knows it's harder for me, it actually means that much more. So this isn't about like, oh, you've got to be perfect in any of these things, or remember, we started with this, it can be way overdone. So last one, let's just finish this up with physical touch.
Yep. This one is, so physical touch is appropriate physical contact. You know, it's, you know, the rubbing the kid's head, hugging them, sitting next to them. My husband also, you know, for people who want physical
shoulder
touch,
rubs, back rubs,
it's really important that you do touch them. If I walk through a room and don't on purpose touch my physical touch kids, they feel disconnected and like they're not loved. Like, is there something wrong? Why wouldn't my mom hug me? Why wouldn't my mom touch me? Why wouldn't my mom show me some level of affection? And so, or your spouse, you know, like, I don't even think about it sometimes. Like, I will sit down on a couch and just sit there, or sometimes, and then realize like, oh, there's a child sitting next to me. I need to touch my child because I'm not a physical touch person. And even sometimes in my mannerisms, like when I sit on my couch, I will sometimes lean to the side and put my feet up. And so it feels like there's a barrier between me and the person sitting next to me. And so I have to like pay attention to my body language in regard to where my child is next to me. So we have an incredible story of this love languages really saving a relationship in our home. Simeon is our middle child. I had 2 before him, and then I had 2 after him. And probably about the time he was 4, He already had 2 younger siblings, and he was going through a really emotional and just fighting hard time. And I had been praying and praying for wisdom about what was the key, what was missing, what was lacking here. And, I thought, well, maybe he really is just feeling overlooked, and I will take him for a day and just give all my attention to this child and really sow into him. So I, for real, spent like the entire day playing games, and I think I maybe took him to the store or the zoo. Like I really
So it was like
invested.
gifts, it was quality time. It was
the quality time for sure.
Yeah.
And we got to bed that night, and he started acting up and crying. And I'm just like, God, like, give me a clue. And I was like, what is wrong with you? I literally spent the whole day with you. What is wrong? And he cried, and he finally said, I wish I was a baby again. And I said, why do you want to be a baby? And he said, because then you would hold me. And I literally, my heart broke, and I just grabbed him and I held him. See, here I was trying to love him with words of affirmation, with quality time. And the one thing he needed was just to be held. And so he was feeling unloved and unseen because I'm running around, holding babies and doing all these other things. And I didn't realize I needed to touch him more. And that was the key. Like God answered with the breakthrough that my kid just needed to be touched. So now every time I see him, I touch this kid, and he's still he kisses us about 1,000 times a day.
He's 12 years old, and literally he'll come up to us and he'll be like
anytime he's in the room, you just know. And when he was a baby, he would pinch the skin on our hand or under our arm. Like he just was always touching us, and getting that. And I think when the other kids came along and he wasn't in our lap anymore, it just got missed. And anyway, so that was where, knowing his love language actually brought a huge shift to that relationship.
Yes. So all of these things, again, like any of the tools we give you guys in any of our podcasts, again, you don't need to be perfect in them, but they're all helpful to be aware of. All of this is helpful information. You can implement it in your own way, in your own time. Have conversations with your spouse. Have conversations with your kids. Make it a fun evening activity you do sometime before you head into the school year. Or if you're just starting the school year, then do it anyway. But take a night, take an hour, have everybody do the gifts assessment on the 5lovelanguages.com. And then have a conversation about it. And you may find all of a sudden very easy open doorways to connect with your kids and or your spouse. You may find conflicts that have been going on for years all of a sudden become completely disempowered just in a moment. That really is the power of this tool. And so we just really encourage you, be encouraged by it. Don't take it as I've got to be perfect in this. It's always a journey. And this is just one step, one process, one tool that you can use to take a few more steps on that journey.
Yeah, and I just want to throw it, I know we're out of time, but just a couple more just real quick suggestions for especially gifts, because gifts do not need to be purchased. So a gift if I'm out grocery shopping, I will sometimes grab a gift of a candy that my kid loves. But a gift can also be like a homemade card, or making their special letter out of pancake dough, or, when I'm pouring my own coffee, I do a little extra coffee and give it to that kid. It's just the little things that add up to those, because, really Christmas and birthday is all the time that you really get gifts. But we find ways to gift our kids in the other times. And homemade gifts are great. And then words of affirmation too. This is, if you are not a words person, get on Google and just search. And another thing that we do is I write little messages in the steam on the mirror. It's the little touches. They can be free, they can be small, but just that, hey, I'm thinking of you, I love you, and giving those little touches every time you walk through the room with your touch kids, and it's just training ourselves to see the things and then do the things. So,
yep.
With that, we will see you next week for key number 4. Bless you. Have a great week.
Bye.